The agenda for today is pretty straightforward. As many bullet points as this has, it's going to be pretty linear. We're going to talk through order types, briefly talk about payment handling, customer and product management, talk about the chart of accounts, how we generally recommend setting up sales tax, and then a reconciliation setup sort of guide. Again, this is a pretty introductory session, so it's not going to go too far in the weeds. We're going to give our general recommendations for QuickBooks Online to make sure that it's set up for e-commerce. There are always nuances to all of these things, so there's never really one setup that works for everybody, but at its basis, this is how we recommend, just getting started, and then from there tweaking things to fit your workflow as a seller. So starting off, we'll talk through the order types. We did a session about a month ago on order types specifically and all the order types, how they're handled within Webgility. From an e-commerce standpoint and just like an ease of setup standpoint, we've basically bifurcated it into two different categories, right? So there's for the direct to consumer or business to consumer type businesses, we generally recommend that you use something like sales receipt or paid invoice. Mostly because when people are checking out from a D2C standpoint, they're just paying you outright through their checkout, like Shopify. So there's no need for you to do anything that's unpaid. Generally, that is, again, a generalization. Whereas on the business to business or wholesale front, a lot of the orders that you're going to see are coming through in an unpaid fashion through invoice or sales order, stuff like that. Anything that uses terms, generally you're going to use invoices, right? So that might be not news to you necessarily as a seller, but it's a good sort of starting point to understand that when we're setting up your QuickBooks Online, generally you're going to be looking at sales receipts, paid invoices for that direct consumer, and then invoices for wholesale.
Also, just to add in the second point, so we can also create like these invoices, the open ones, they also get linked to the account receivables in the QuickBooks. So let's say if you want to just get an idea how much amount you will be receiving, you can track it through that.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a great addition. Um, and again, yeah, so this isn't an end all be all. You may be a D2C seller on maybe Shopify or through Amazon, something like that, and use invoices because of some specific workflow that you have set up. But again, from the jump, this is generally what we would recommend setting up.
So
Oh,
moving to the
oh,
order
go ahead. Sorry.
payment handling. So we recommend you having three kind of accounts. One is clearing one, like Shopify payments clearing. Let's say if you're using Shopify to hold your balance in that. So it's a virtual kind of account in which we will just show you the balance because Shopify or Amazon, they are not paying you directly on the same day, but they pay you through the settlement or through the payouts. So that's why we recommend you to set a clearing account or a deposit account. And from this account, later on, when we talk about reconciling the data, then we uh, transfer the money from the clearing account to your real bank account. Talking about the payment method mapping. So, in case you are using multiple payment methods like Stripe, PayPal, or Shopify payments, we can also create multiple accounts, multiple clearing accounts in order to map them. So let's say your Shopify payments should go to a particular clearing account. Then for PayPal, you want to use a separate account, we can do that. Payment terms, let's say if you are having the unpaid invoices, you are using terms like net 15, net 30, when the customers are not paying you directly on the checkout. They're paying you in 15 days or 30 days or whatever according to your workflow. So for that, we need to check if the payment terms are already present in your QuickBooks. They should be there in your QuickBooks and in the sales channel as well.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's a great, easy way of summarizing it. When it comes to customer management's pretty straightforward. There's really sort of similar to the order type equation that we talked about. There's really two sort of categories when it comes to customer management. If you're using a single default customer, that's generally going to be because you don't need the data inside of QuickBooks. There's a lot of reasons for not needing the data inside of QuickBooks, but I guess the most obvious would be if you're using Shopify or you're using Amazon and you're managing the customers directly through either of those platforms, you probably don't need that customer information in QuickBooks. To take that example even further, if you're using Amazon, Amazon's not actually giving you real customer information anyways. Amazon gives you sort of dummy customer information. So for Amazon, at all points, you want to use a standard customer or a single default customer. But for a situation like Shopify, where they do give you customer information, but maybe you don't manage it within QuickBooks, use a single customer. And the way that you would set that up in Webgility, just to kind of take that example further, is set up a Shopify customer, just like a default customer inside of QuickBooks, and then map inside of Webgility everything from Shopify to go to that customer directly in Shopify. For individual customers, this is again similar situation. You want to track that customer information inside of QuickBooks. Again, if you're using a Shopify and you don't use Shopify as your CRM, maybe you want to use QuickBooks more specifically to track customer information, then you would use the individual or the individual customer information. But the other side of the equation here is if you are a wholesale business and you want to be able to track the customers that you work with on a business to business level, that is the easiest way to do that. So, sort of unintuitive. It sounds kind of backwards when you think like, okay, well, I'm using B2B, I need to use individual customers, and then you're using D2C, but you're not tracking customer information. It sounds flip-flopped, but that is the best way to work it. Webgility has some settings to be able to track B2B orders for customer information specifically as businesses. And it makes it super easy. So generally, we recommend for B2B, track individually because you can track, again, that business to business relationship. And then for D2C, most of the time, you probably don't need customer information inside of QuickBooks. This is especially more relevant for QuickBooks desktop users because QuickBooks desktop company files have a lot of sizing issues. So the bigger the company file gets, the slower it is. QuickBooks Online definitely still has some similar issues, but to a much lesser extent. But if you're worried about your QuickBooks file in QuickBooks Online getting too big or getting too cluttered, that is one way that you can make sure that it doesn't get out of hand. All right, and you want to cover product management?
Yeah. So talking about the products, like if you want to track the inventory, then we can create individual inventory items. We can also create variants. So let's say a lot of people, they ask me a question while I'm in the implementation session. Let's say we have one product with five variants, like five colors and that. So what should we do? For that, you should create the same SKU, like with the different identifier. Maybe you can just add the alphabet or something, and then you can create it in the QuickBooks so that we can match it. And it's easier for you to, get the orders there. Otherwise, in Webgility Online, we show that in the error section. So whenever we talk about variant style based items, we should create them both in your sales channel as well as in your QuickBooks. Talking about the bundle or the group products, so about that, again, we have an option to create bundles in QuickBooks where, let's say, five products are there in that bundle and you're creating in a QuickBooks. Webgility has the ability to reduce the particular items from each inventory rather than the bundle, because bundle cannot have a quantity on QuickBooks. So whenever we talk about product management, it's necessary that you should have all the items there, because I have seen a lot of people struggling later on with the 3,000 SKUs to be put in QuickBooks, or it's not matching properly. We can have criterias like SKU to SKU matching or product name to product name matching, and that can prepare you better because you don't have to struggle later on for that.
Yeah, that's such an implementation problem. When I was in implementation, that was my biggest thing was, you'd get people that, just started with Webgility, so it's not their fault or anything like that, but they would have like 24,000 SKUs in their retail store, and maybe they only use half of those, so 12,000 active SKUs, but
Yeah.
none of them had the same SKU in their Shopify store. So they used like two completely different naming conventions between QuickBooks and Shopify. And while that might work on like a manual basis, if you're selling on Shopify, maybe you have your own workflow for that. If just to kind of frame it from Webgility's perspective, if we're trying to, keep your inventory in sync, if we're trying to, track your cost of goods sold and understand your profitability and stuff like that, it's impossible for us to do that unless we know which product belongs
Yeah.
where on either side, right? So that skew, this is like the spiel that I always do, is that if you do nothing else to prepare for WebGility, make sure that you have SKUs that match between all of your stores, all of your channels, and QuickBooks, because that is the first and largest thing that affects being able to keep things in sync and being able to track things accurately. Because again, we don't know what we don't know, right? So if the SKUs don't match, we're never going to know that those are the same item. We have some fuzzy matching, is what we call it, rules that maybe we'll try to make connections and see if we can do that bridge manually. But the easiest and most upfront way of doing it is just to make sure that the SKU that's in Shopify or the SKU that's in QuickBooks is on the other end as well. That just keeps it super simple. So I'll hop off my soapbox, but that is the thing that I always like to say.
Okay. And just to add on with this, so by seeing this problem, we have recently launched our accounting services. So in case if the customers are not ready with the product matching or they want to clean up, we are providing those services as well. So
Excellent
even if
call out.
your QuickBooks is not ready, you don't have to worry. We can handle that for you.
Yeah, yeah. If you're ready to throw your hands up and not do it, then just talk to us and we'll get somebody to do it for you. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Perfect. So for chart of accounts, for products, it's very straightforward. When it comes to product sales, make an income account and keep it in that income account. One thing that you might want to consider here that I actually didn't mention in these slides is creating clearing accounts for all use cases, specifically in e-commerce. So what I mean by that is we're talking about having an income account for product sales. If you have more than one sales channel, if you have a Shopify and an Amazon and an eBay and Etsy and whatever, it's good to be able to segment all of those separately from each other rather than if you see an income account, something that a lot of people might do first is just use the undeposited funds account, or a random bank account. You can do that, but it's going to make it really messy, especially if you do have more than one channel. So creating a just essentially a dummy bank account functions like a regular bank account, but one that says Shopify sales or Amazon sales, whatever it is, being able to create one of those accounts for each sales channel and for each, different type of fee or, expense that comes in as well will allow you to sort of keep things segmented and keep your data as clean as possible. Because when something goes wrong, having that segmentation makes it a lot easier to go in and figure out what happened. But to continue down the row here, inventory asset accounts help you track inventory value. And then a COGS or expense account helps you track the cost of goods sold. So all three of those main categories, you can further break out into subcategories, right? Like for COGS expenses, there's going to be different types of cost of goods sold, type fees and expenses that you can create accounts for to track individually. So stuff like, warehouse fees or Amazon has, if you use Amazon, they have a settlement report system where they send you a settlement roll up of all the fees and, deposit that they owe you. Having all of those separated, I actually just did a session on this last week on our ecom clinic. Having all of those separated out into their own accounts allows you to see what changes month over month to make sure that you're on the right track with that sales channel, and also allows you to you know pivot if you need to find out where the discrepancies are, rather than, as an example, having everything come through to one Amazon account, your expenses, your fees, your deposits, your sales, if it all comes through to one Amazon account rather than bifurcated here, if something doesn't match up, you're going to be digging through a ton of data, unfortunately. So, anything you wanted to add there?
No,
Cool.
perfect.
Sometimes I just yap, so just let me know if I'm going on too long. But yeah,
No,
if you want to take the extended chart of accounts here, this is kind of alluding to what I just talked about.
Yes, so it's what John was talking about. So for shipping, discount, coupons, gift cards, and for the fee, we can create service type of items. Why so? Because we will be adding the accounts in the income account. So, for example, for shipping income, we can create a chart of accounts called shipping income and we can tag it to the line item. It's an optional thing, but let's say if you are in a workflow where you track the shipping income discounts as separate line item, then we should have all these chart of accounts as well as these line items present in your QuickBooks. Mostly we create it on the call when we are implementing. So this is a good to have thing if you are preparing your QuickBooks for implementation or just connecting with Webgility.
Yeah, yeah, good call out. So the good thing about working with our implementation team is a lot of this stuff gets talked about and figured out on the call. The
Yeah.
biggest stuff that doesn't get figured out on the call is usually like that SKU mapping. If SKUs aren't done, we generally, unless you're paying for the accounting service, we generally aren't going to go in and create SKUs for you. That's sort of homework for you. But this sort of thing we generally can create on the fly. Webgility Online allows us to just create accounts from within Webgility that get created in QuickBooks for you. So makes it super easy. But yeah, we'll talk about sales tax real quick. Unfortunately, we could talk about sales tax for a year and never actually really cover anything. Because sales tax is so complicated, we like to boil it down to just being as simple as possible from a Webgility standpoint. So the biggest two options that you have here are going to be making sure that the sales tax settings are enabled in QuickBooks or creating sales tax items and mapping them as a line item through your sales channel. It really depends on what your workflow is as an e-commerce business. In my experience, the thing that we generally will always recommend for most sellers, at least from a D2C standpoint, is enabling it as a line item. So creating a sales tax line item. And generally, to go even further, we recommend creating a sales tax item for each of your stores. So a Shopify sales tax, Amazon sales tax, whatever. And then so what that means is when an order gets pulled from Shopify or Amazon or whatever store, the customer's already paid that sales tax at checkout, right? Specifically for Amazon, this is very important because Amazon remits for you. So you don't have to worry about actually remitting the sales tax, but you want to make sure that you're tracking the amount of sales tax revenue that's collected, just to make sure that you're audit proof, that you have all the data that you need at any given point. So having an Amazon sales tax line item allows Webgility to pull that sales tax information that's charged at checkout and map it directly into your QuickBooks under that line item so you can always track it. And it's the same for all of your sales channels. More importantly, for sales channels outside of or outside of Amazon, you do have to remit and you do have to collect. So making sure that they're again segmented and kept isolated away from each other and away from other types of revenue makes it really easy for you to remit and make sure that you're compliant with sales tax law. If you're using the sales tax setting in QuickBooks, generally you're either doing a workflow that doesn't charge them at checkout. So you're, maybe doing that invoice workflow if you're B2B, stuff like that. The other sort of pitfall or thing to, I guess, consider with you letting QuickBooks do it is if you do let QuickBooks do it and they are charged at checkout in Shopify, you have to make 100% sure that your sales tax jurisdictions in QuickBooks match exactly what you have in Shopify, or they're going to be two different numbers and things aren't going to match up. So that's why we generally recommend, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, if something has changed, Muskan, but generally we recommend creating that line item because the customer, as long as you're on like that sales receipt or paid invoice sort of workflow, they've already paid that sales tax at checkout. So there's nothing that needs to change. So we're just carrying that solid number that comes through on the order directly into QuickBooks for you.
Yes. And a lot of times I have seen because most of the US states, like there is no tax. So most of the time we also keep it off that customers don't want to get the data about the tax in their QuickBooks because the
Yeah,
marketplace is already taking care of the same. So
exactly.
we can also track the marketplace tax through Webgility, just to add in
Yeah.
case they.
Yeah, so like with Amazon, you don't have to worry about tax. You will never have to remit or collect tax yourself because Amazon does that for you. They didn't used to do all the states. For a while it was like they did,
Mhm.
30 to 40 states, and they sort of added ones here and there. But now it is all 50 states are collected and remitted for you. So you never have to worry about, am I meeting Nexus in the state? Am I charging the correct amount? Amazon takes care of all that for you, which is nice. But it is still good to be able to track that to make sure that you understand where all the money is going and moving. So having it set up as a line item allows, like you said, Muskan, Webgility to pull that information and put it in its own little bucket. Don't have to worry about it. It does it automatically for you on the back end, but it's good to have it there just in case. Um, cool. And if you want to handle, I think this is the last slide before we get into the live demo. So
Yes, so for the reconciling purpose, we recommend you that clearing account which John was talking about and which I explained in the first the second slide. So to reconcile it properly, we should have the clearing accounts properly, like Amazon sales, Amazon clearing account, Shopify clearing account, in case you are using multiple channels, multiple sales channels. And talking about the vendors, so we should have all the vendors if we are talking about the fee, like Shopify fee, PayPal fee, Amazon fee. So we should have the proper vendors created in your QuickBooks and the fee. You can talk about fee in the expense accounts. So we should have the expense accounts. Also, again, we are creating these accounts on the implementation calls as well. So even if you don't have that, that's not a big thing. We can create it when we are connecting Webgility as well. So yeah, that's it. It's good to have these accounts because you will have a proper idea about how much fee for this particular month you have paid to the merchant or to, let's say, the payment processors. If we talk about, so there are two kind of fee if we go into detail. One is payout fee and one is payment processing fee. So for the payouts, it's usually about the settlement report or which Amazon is sending us. And in that, Amazon is going to charge us the fee for FBA, FBM, and there is a lot of uh, types of fee in that. So all fee we can track through Webgility into one expense account. Also, in case you want to bifurcate this,
oh, I think we're losing you, Muskan, unless that's me.
expense accounts and track it separate. Card fee. Oh, no, it's me, I guess. Sorry. Am I audible now?
It just you went robotic for a
My
second. I think
internet
I think
just.
it's okay now.
Okay, sorry. My internet just shivered for a moment.
No, you're good. It happens.
Okay. Since it's the last slide, maybe it's too heavy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
talking
oh yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so talking about the expenses, we can track them separately as well if you want, and we can all track it all in one account as per your workflow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it for the slide.
and just to add, this is something that I harp on a lot. If anybody on this call isn't aware, I run a Thursday clinic every time at the same time as this office hours. So it's called the Ecom Clinic. And it's on Thursdays at 12 p.m. Eastern. I cover a lot of data related topics specific to e-commerce. So we talk a lot about Amazon because it is, sort of the biggest elephant in the room, and Amazon settlement reports come up a lot. And just to kind of double down on what Muskan was saying about the fees, Amazon has a lot of fees in the settlement reports. There's a lot of complexity, a lot of I like to call it layers of obfuscation, but it's a lot easier to see through that complexity when you have accounts set up for each type of fee. Not only does it let you see what you're being charged at its basis, that's like the first thing that you see, but it also allows you to make decisions based on that data a lot easier when you can see how much you're being charged for each thing. An example being Amazon in their settlement reports, and this doesn't necessarily only apply to Amazon, but Amazon's just an easy example, right? So in their settlement report, they'll include a bit about your returns and the amount of returns that you had. Um, there's a lot of fees surrounding that return sort of rate, but that return rate itself affects a lot of things that Amazon does for you. So being able to see that return rate, the amount that you get in returns, allows you to, either phase out the products that you have a lot of returns for, or improve the process for, getting those products in front of the right people so that you can lower that return rate. Because the return rate is, it affects what's it called? The Amazon reserve hold that they have every settlement period now as well, where they sort of hold a deposit back for you for another 2 weeks. That's based on your return rate and sort of disputes and additional charges, right? So not only does having these accounts segment things to make it easier for you to understand what's going on, but it allows you to make better decisions with it. So again, sorry for the spiel. I just like to kind of offer a little bit more color where I can. But now is the time for the live demo. I know we're getting close to time, but we can stay here as long as we need to make sure that we answer any questions that you guys have and cover what we need to cover. So I will stop my screen share because you were going to share yours whenever you're ready.
Sure. So just allow me a minute. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can type in the chat box. We'll be happy to answer. So I hope my screen is visible.
It's loading. It should be any second. There it is.
Okay. So yes, pretty much we spoke about chart of accounts, products, how do we need them in the QuickBooks. Now, just to give you an idea, the quickest way to hop onto anything which I find in QuickBooks is this gear icon, guys. Because QuickBooks is also a very vast product, and when you try to search data, it's very hard. I've seen a lot of people struggling to find where to have what. So talking about the chart of accounts, if you just click on this gear icon, you can come to chart of accounts from here. And that's the first step to prepare your QuickBooks as well. Here we can have, like when we connect Webgility also creates some accounts for you automatically. But in case you want to create new accounts, you can just click on this. And then you can add the account name, the account type. So bank, expenses, account receivables, all these accounts we can create. And talking about expenses, we can also create the expense accounts from here. Detail type, for example, I'll just take a bank sort of account since we were talking a lot about the clearing account. So let's say I'm creating a Amazon clearing account. So this can be bank and checking sort of account. Then the currency in which you are dealing with, and then we can just save it. So that's how we create an account in the chart of accounts. And also I will just show you a quick example of the expense accounts. So for example, you were talking about fee. So FBA, fees, so on. Now under the detail type, you can choose what type of fee it is. And if you don't get that option, like you can choose the other expense type from here. So that's how we create the fee.
Easy.
And as I told you, so we can map these accounts to the products as well. So for example, usually this inventory asset account is for tracking the inventory. Then there is a sales account, which we will tag to every product when we are creating it. So sales as an income account, this will be reflecting in your P&L report as well, sale of product income. And for doing that, we have this products and services. So first step is to create your chart of accounts. You can create sales account, you can create the COGS account, the clearing account, the fee accounts. And then while creating the product, we have these many variants. So when we talk about service can be used for a line item like discount or sales tax. We can we can track that as a line item. So for all those kind of line items, we will be creating a service sort of item. In terms of the inventory item, for the items for which you need to track your inventory, you should always create it as inventory item. And then talking about the bundle. So as I was telling you, we can have multiple products from any category into a bundle and we can sell that. So we have batch import options as well, and you can also import it from the sales channel, but just to create it manually, how will you do it? So I'll just create a service item first. And let's name it as discount. And then we can add the account here. So this is coming from your chart of accounts. So I have already created discounts given account, and then I'll just save it. Now talking about inventory item. So I'm just creating a normal. So SKU field is very important because mostly it's the matching criteria which customers choose from sales channel to Amazon. Oh, so sorry, from sales channel to QuickBooks. So make sure whatever SKU you are adding in your sales channel, you add the same SKU in QuickBooks. And you can add the inventory start date as well here, sales account, and if you purchase this, then the expense account. So let's say we have 10 quantity. So that's about the products. And now just to see how we are gonna see the sales transactions or invoices, it's under sales orders. So if there is any sales receipt, it will be coming under the sales order section, like this one. And talking about the invoices, you will be able to see all your invoices under this section. So I'll just quickly show you by creating a sales, invoice. I can choose the customer. And then we can choose the terms here as well. Like if they are going to pay us in 30 days, we can choose net 30 here. The discount we can get at the end of the invoice or sales receipt as well. Or in case the line item, then it will come under this place. So we have created the invoice as well. That's it from my end for today. If you have any sort of questions, you want to know how to create something in QuickBooks, we are open to answer that.
Yeah. Now is the dedicated Q&A session here. If you don't have any questions, that is totally fine. We're not gonna, grill you until you do have one. But if you have questions after we end, or if there's anything that you want us to show you live, that maybe might take a little bit of time, if you need help setting up your workflow, like Muskan mentioned earlier, if you need like dedicated accounting services to go in and, do a cleanup and make sure that things are set up properly, reach out to our team directly, either through the online chat that's on our website or through Webgility Online directly. We can schedule a call with you and make sure that we scope everything out and get any questions that you have answered. And that applies to anything. So even outside of this session, if you ever run into any questions, that's what our team is here for. We are more than happy to answer the questions that you do have. Again, this session is recorded. So within the next, I would say the next 8 hours, you'll get an email that has a link to the recording and again has a link to the slide deck. If you want to watch back any of our previous videos in this series, you can go to our playlists on the Webgility YouTube channel. So once you get that link, you'll be able to go through all of our videos, but the playlist is called Customer Webinars Q&A. I'm actually just going to share the playlist link here in a second when I get to it and while we wait for any questions. And if we don't have any questions, we'll end about 5 minutes early and you guys will get a couple minutes back into your day. That's definitely not a bad thing. And I'll drop that link in chat here once I stop fumbling with it. Customer webinar Q&A. Here it is. Yeah, so if you click on that link, it'll take you to a playlist of all of the customer webinars that we've done that are recorded and put onto the website or onto YouTube. There is currently 22 videos in there. About half of them are split between QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop, so about 11 each. Some of them are the same topics, so find the one that resonates directly to which product you're using and what you want to know. But yeah, look forward to having more of these sessions in the future. Again, they are bi-weekly as of right now. That might change in the future, but as of right now, it's every other Wednesday, and we go back and forth between QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop for the most part. So look out for an email that will have the invite to the next session that we do. And then again, if you're interested in the session that I do on Thursdays, it's called the E-commerce Clinic, and I'll drop a link to that as well in the chat. That happens every single Thursday, 12 p.m. Eastern. So you can register directly on that link that I shared in the chat. And if you'd like to not have to be emailed every single week for an invitation, you can click register me for all future sessions as well, and you'll just automatically be signed up. But we can go ahead and end it there if there are no questions. Muskan, I really appreciate you being on these. You killed it for your first one. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. We're more than happy to answer them. But everybody have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday and have a good week.